What? You are. You told me several times how you're the master beater.
I was just waiting to see you double down on it. I was waiting to see whether you're going to double down or back off.
In theory, we're live, but
deadpan stare it. I got a notification on YouTube
Okay.
that we're live.
I don't know if the chat's answering us or not. Let me just finish this.
In theory, we're live like Memorex. Live like Memorex.
Kent, how can you hear and see us? Are you on YouTube? Are you on Twitch? Are you
He's
on
probably
Facebook?
on Twitch. Oh, excuse me. See, Suncast is right. You should be paying your co-host.
In theory, yeah.
Even if it's in positive affirmation.
We should probably actually get legitimate agreements on this show.
Yeah, I want to get paid in cookies, since that's about the only way I'm going to.
You need to be careful about the cookies that Steven will send you, because remember what's legal in his province.
Yeah, but he'd have to mail those, and that'd be a crime, so he can't really do that.
Not necessarily. It might not be a crime in
Got past
Canada.
customs.
It might not be a crime.
I'd have to reload.
I'm pretty
the whole
sure
template
crossing
here, so
of
hold on.
international borders of it is not allowed just because it's legal where he lives.
Well, I'm pretty sure it would get stopped and seized, but I don't know if it's illegal.
So let me rephrase. I like oatmeal raisin cookies and white chocolate chip macadamia nut with no special additions.
You're totally not allowed to send it out of the country. Because in fact, when you go on a plane, you get told that reminder you can travel within Canada, but not out of Canada, and that's because if you're federal border.
When you leave Colorado in the States, you're not supposed to take it across state lines and stuff like that.
Well, that's the thing is we're not allowed to bring it there because of the fact that it's legal there, right?
I mean, it should be legal so that we can tax the hell out of it, but that's for a separate discussion on a separate show.
Here, I'm going to podcast like this the whole night. Does that work?
Oh, is that how we're doing it?
Whatever you want, man.
Here, let me do the same.
This has been...
There we go. Are we good now?
No, see,
we do it?
In order to really do it, what you got to do is you got to hand hold the camera.
We can do that.
Stick it on a tripod and just hold it out in your arm.
My USB cord is completely tied. I can't lift it up.
See, I can do this. I can do like the walk and talk sort of thing, that people do, and they shouldn't because they're idiots.
Do that. That's what I'll do.
I was just going for the nice little angle.
How about that one? Is that one better?
John, yes, I am. And I don't know if Steven was planning on discussing why, but I can be open on the show or I can say it now.
I didn't see. Hold on.
He said, is SP going to podcast with his curtain open? Yes, I am. And you know why.
Is that code word for fly?
I do know why.
Air conditioning?
Sure. Yeah, we can talk about it on the show. That works. Ah, fuck it. I mean, whoop. Or hopefully that's okay on Twitch.
So I should level. Oh, Twitch doesn't.
No, I was gonna say I'm the first person ever to swear on Twitch.
Yeah. So I should level my camera back out, is what you're saying?
Might be an idea.
While everybody's leveling their camera out, Suncast tomorrow, I am scheduled.
Whoa! We're gonna do it on the show. We'll do it on the show.
You're a show.
Because that'll segue nicely into something. All right,
When's
I think we're good to
Steven
go.
John Drew show hitting the internet.
And by the way, you look at the bar down there now. Because I would have had to reload it to remove one of the boxes. We have a slot for end of show. So.
I'm okay with that because we can just make a show out of the end of show, do a little song and dance number.
All right.
I'm okay with this. What song are we going to sing to wrap the show up this week, guys?
Just sing a song.
Or are we going to freestyle rap?
Let's just do this. Should we do it?
What, freestyle rap?
Sure. We'll do it.
Sweet.
I'm David S. Dawson from the Intellectual Podcast, a show that spotlights creatives from all walks of life, part of the Gonna Geek Network, just like the show you're checking out now. Shows on the network are individually owned, and opinions expressed may not reflect others. Find other incredibly geeky shows at GonnaGeekNetwork.com.
This is the official GonnaGeek.com show. Each week, we run down the latest news and happenings in the world of geek. These are your hosts for the show, Steven, Chris, and SP.
Welcome to an all-new episode of the official GonnaGeek.com show. I am Stephen John Drew, with me, of course, is Chris Farrell.
I heard there was going to be wings and pizza.
There is wings and pizza, and by wings and pizza, I mean that this is the new wing, Stargate Pioneer, and I heard he ate pizza tonight.
I did not eat pizza tonight. Matter of fact, I try not to eat pizza because it's not really good for you.
Blasphemy.
It's true.
Blasphemy. It's good for the soul.
So if you didn't know this, we do have a video side to this show over at Geeks.live. We stream live on Mondays at 8:45 p.m. Eastern time, and if you check it out later in the week at GonnaGeek.com, we do have a video side of things. And right now, people everywhere are probably going, Stargate Pioneer, you look a little bit different. You do not have a curtain behind you. And they're saying it exactly like that.
Yeah, those that may have not seen me on Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D. or Starling Tribune, I was going to say Stargate Pioneer, Starling Tribune. I have podcasted with the curtain open before, and I have not done it on this show, and I have not done it on Better Podcasting. I will this week, though, and that is because the Great Wall of Water behind me is scheduled to start getting fixed tomorrow, and I had to do a whole bunch of stuff. I had to clear up around the windows and stuff, so I'm just going to leave the curtain open this week, and you're going to get what you get. Sorry about that.
I really enjoyed the last time you dropped the curtain.
Well, that was the private webcam that you put in my bathroom that was not legal.
Well, since we're talking about home stuff, I'll talk a little bit about something home related that happened to me this past week. It's actually relevant to this show. It's smart home related. And if you are in our Discord server, you might have seen me tell this story, but I'll go ahead and share it here because I know a lot of people aren't. This past week, I decided that I was going to install a new smart device for my ceiling fan. In our bedroom, we've got a ceiling fan, and the way it worked before, it was based off a remote control. So there was a switch, one switch on and off, turned on power to the ceiling fan, and then from there was a remote control that controlled the ceiling fan. That was done through a little module up in the canopy of the fan. So, you had a button to turn on the speed, or 3 buttons for the speeds, low, medium, high, and then you had a light button there as well, and it was dimmable and stuff. But I thought I need to make this smart, and I found a cool little device that I'll talk about probably some other time. And the idea was it was a smart substitute, so I had to go replace that device up in the canopy, replace the switch, and I was off to the races. But I installed this switch, and I look at it and I go, wait a minute, the fan seems slower, because I was looking at it before and I thought to myself, okay, we usually run this fan. We run all the time. We sleep with it on. It's on all the time. And I'm pretty sure we're running it on low. So I don't do it, turn it on much. My wife goes to bed before me. So having one remote only, she's usually the one that's sitting there turning it on and off. And so I never use it. So I'm playing around with it and I'm like, this is going slower. Oh, well, figure it out later. Tried a bunch of things and I go, figure it out later. I'll wait till my wife gets home and show it to her and then diagnose that after. So she gets home and I show her and she's like, hey, that's really cool. And then I'm like, yeah, there's a problem though. You see the fan speed? And she looks at me kind of puzzled. And I'm like, yeah, that seems like what we usually run it on, right? And she goes, yeah. I go, the problem is that's high mode right now. Again, she looks puzzled at me and I'm like, we usually run it on high and this is looking like low right now. And she's like, what are you talking about? And she goes, no, I always push the high button. I always push high for the fan. So the long story short was I thought there was a problem with the device that I installed, but turns out I just didn't realize for God knows how long that my ceiling fan has not been running at full speed. So replacing the device forced me to realize that I had a broken device in the house.
So you had an ID10T issue.
Well, not so much that as I assumed the problem was with the tech when it was with
it sounds fixture. Like an ID10T issue to me.
Okay, yeah. Fair enough. So at some point, I'll either fix the ceiling fan or replace the ceiling fan. I haven't decided yet, but...
Fix? No, replace.
I'm thinking of replace.
Far easier.
That's what I'm thinking of. Actually, I Googled afterwards, and the fix does look to be relatively simple, but ceiling fans come on sale so much. At this point, we've been living with it the way it is. I'll just wait till there's a sale, probably.
And then you don't have to worry about something else breaking and being in more money on fixing a fan.
That's true.
Mm-hmm.
But I got a smart ceiling fan now that works within the confines of the ceiling fan.
Wow, that's 2 weeks in a row that two of us have had something go wrong, and then we've had to buy new things to fix it.
Chris, quick, break something on your desk right now, and then you can get it over with.
Dude, I almost had to spend 10 grand on a new HVAC system, so I dodged a bullet, and I'm not gonna tempt any of the fates right now.
No, how old is your HVAC system?
15 years. I got a little bit of time left.
Yeah, not much. Not much.
I know, but I have been setting aside the money. I didn't have quite enough set aside right now that I would have felt comfortable. And thankfully, they checked everything and said, "Hey, you're good to go for now." And I went, "Whew, another year to save money."
All I know is that our 500,000 listeners that we have sure would love to hear your review of a system. You know, if someone wanted to send you a review, our unsubstantiatable 500,000 listeners.
Yes. Let's see how well that works. Did you hear that, Carrier and Train and various other HVAC vendors? 500,000 ish listeners would love to hear me review that.
Give or take 459,500. Anyways, you do the math. We got one listener. Okay, that's what it comes down to. Let's move on.
Steven.
Should we move on?
I mean, if we have to.
Yeah, we got lots of listeners. That's what it is. Lots and lots of listeners.
Ish.
All right.
Does that include the ants that can hear you as you're playing it through your house?
Chris Farrell, I know one place that you probably have a lot of viewers, and it's on your Twitch gaming channel that you do all the time. And I hear that...
Oh, yeah. I have so many Twitch viewers.
You've got a bit of news you want to talk about that will impact the future of your Twitch gaming channel, maybe.
Well, I don't know so much the future of my personal Twitch gaming channel, but as we get closer to console launches and things like that, we start hearing more about cool things coming to the consoles, but we also start hearing more about various cloud gaming products. We just had Amazon's Luma, I think is what it was, that was announced recently. Steven's talked about his experience with Google Stadia, i.e. he bought one and returned it without even trying it. And we do know that Microsoft now has their game streaming that is part of the Game Pass service. So I have two cloud gaming stories I wanted to bring up in part because both are relatively short. Let's start with the Microsoft one first. So Microsoft's head of gaming and Xbox, Phil Spencer, has hinted that the company is planning TV streaming sticks for its xCloud gaming service. He did an interview where he discussed the potential for additional tiers of Game Pass, which could include a free bundled stick to play cloud games. Quote, I think we're going to see lower priced hardware as part of our ecosystem. And when you think about streaming sticks and other things that somebody may just want to go plug into a TV and play via xCloud, you can imagine us even having something that we just included in the Game Pass subscription that gave you an ability to stream xCloud games to your television and buying the controller. So this is Phil Spencer's first public mention of any kind of Xbox streaming TV stick. The implication in this interview made it seem as though it was coming soon. So if you're not familiar with xCloud, this is a feature that is bundled in with the Game Pass Ultimate tier that is $15 a month. You get a bunch of free games that you can play as part of Game Pass. You get Xbox Live Gold, and you get the ability to stream all of this stuff. And they teased additional tiers. Why is it we think this might be happening? Well, number one, we've already seen people take the Game Pass app on and just install it themselves, take the SDK, and put it on various Android devices that may or may not officially be supported. For instance, folks in the NVIDIA Shield subreddit have talked about installing the xCloud app. In fact, someone even took their Samsung smart refrigerator, which has a tablet built into it, and installed the xCloud app on it and was playing Doom Eternal on their refrigerator. It was fantastic and hilarious. So the potential is already there that the xCloud streaming app could be put on other devices. And the only real issue they're going to have is it's capped at 720p right now because it's designed for playing on a cell phone or in some cases a tablet. Not nice 4K HDR like we would expect to see on our newer television sets and things like Google Stadia and Amazon's Luna have been promising. Microsoft has also partnered with Samsung this year for xCloud, and it's only a matter of time before a lot of people expect to see the game streaming service appear directly on Samsung televisions. So what's the timing on this, if you have to guess? Well, people are predicting the new hardware could be soon-ish. My guess would be sometime in early 2021, since they have new consoles launching in like less than a month as we record this. It doesn't make sense to put other competing hardware that's far cheaper out. But next year, Phil Spencer and the rest of the Xbox team have said that all of the Xboxes that are in their data center to facilitate cloud gaming are currently Xbox One S devices. They will be replacing that with Xbox Series X hardware. And when you see that hardware get upgraded, then the potential comes out that xCloud could be pushed to other devices. And there are also rumors it will be integrated into Facebook gaming next year. It's going to be interesting.
This will be interesting to see here. I, however, am beginning to feel a lot like we're waiting. It seems like it's always right around the corner, like it's almost there, and the things that are coming out are things like Stadia, where it's less than impressive. So I feel like we're almost having that carrot dangled for a long time.
But there's a bit of a difference, which is, have you had a chance to try Game Pass's game streaming feature that they have?
No, I have not.
So it is surprisingly good on both Wi-Fi and mobile connections. And granted, it's also capping you at 720p and not having to have as great a picture quality as you'd expect in a home theater system. But their proof of concept is already in place. I mean, and the basic concept is it spins up an Xbox in their data center and then streams it to you. And it works surprisingly well, and they've been working on it for a while. This is the next evolution. So I think we need to be a little careful being like, oh, Microsoft just keeps teasing us, when they've been doing this for years now. It just came out of official beta and is still in partial beta, for lack of a better term, as part of the Game Pass streaming features.
Betazoid?
Just don't if you marry one, you gotta get naked, though. Just be careful.
Why are you saying be careful to that? That's pretty much
I don't want a bunch of people to see me naked, I'll be honest.
It's how I attend every wedding.
It's how he attends the show when his camera's not working.
That's how I attend right now. All these clothes are CGI.
That's green screen. Yeah.
All right, SP, I know you have you've gone, I think it's fair to say you've evolved a little bit over the years with gameplay on this show. I think originally you were pretty hard into disc. I know in recent you expressed that you're almost starting to get over discs a little bit. You still like having the physical device there. What's your take on this whole cloud idea? This whole gaming cloud. It's the cloud.
Is that the Canadian version? Is that what it's called? The cloud?
You're crackling.
You're Cylon-y.
Yeah. He's Cylon-y. Cylon-y. Cylon-y pioneer.
That was impressive, Stephen.
I know. I just thought of those lyrics on the spot. Can't hear you now. I put in the note, Cylon-y Pioneer Show. While he's doing that, nope, still can't hear you. Chris and I will dance. No, I can't hear you. This is riveting audio if anybody's streaming us on audio only.
I'm stuck in a box.
Do you need a few minutes? Do you want us to... Oh, he disconnected.
It's my face in a box.
I wonder what's going on, because I think he responded saying, I know I am, which means he could hear it, and he's listening locally. So
yeah, I don't know.
I wonder if he's got to go and shut off his mixer and everything, and that would drop his USB connection when it does. So,
I don't know.
There we go. Is he back? Oh, wait, I think I have to re-add him here. Hold on. SP,
Hello.
I don't think we can hear you.
I'm Dr. Claw.
Wow.
Oh, now we can.
hear him.
We can hear you now. Yeah.
Okay.
Let me just...
Can you still hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
I just have to re-add you back here.
Do I sound like I did before?
You sound fine.
Dr. Claw.
Take a second and add me to all the screens. Sorry,
That's
I
all
did
good.
that.
All good. Could you hear yourself sounding that way?
Yeah.
Oh, weird. I wonder what it was.
Yeah, that's I think the second time.
Yeah, you had. That's right. You did have something. I wonder if
I don't know if it's the DBX or if it's the.
you still have a. Well, you know what you
Mackie.
could do. Well, we'll just talk about this for a sec while we're streaming. If you could tap that DBX connection through the insert or something, you could maybe run it to a separate source that you could flip over to if it happens again, right? But anywho, because then you would know if it was there.
Otherwise, I could go through the second DBX.
And that's true. And then if it goes away, then you know it's the DBX. That's probably better. All right, we'll go here. How did I throw it to you? I said you've evolved quite a bit.
Yeah, something like that. To not necessarily needing discs was the implication.
Here, go ahead.
Yeah, I do still like my players, my consoles to have a Blu-ray player on board, just because I have some Blu-ray discs. And sometimes when I'm out in the backyard, doing the backyard theater and stuff, I like to actually see the Blu-rays versus having to go through a nebulous Wi-Fi connection. But I do like actually having a disc, although all my latest games that I bought have been digital. So I am going digital, like you said. How do I think about this? I'm ready to take an over-under with you guys, an over-under bet on what comes out first, this Microsoft Xbox streaming stick or the 6th generation Apple TV.
I will say Apple TV for sure.
You really?
Yeah.
You have that much faith in Prosser?
I think not that. It's more in Microsoft, because they're not going to cannibalize their own market share right now.
I think we're looking at late 2021.
I think both these companies, if they're going to take a serious look at these things, are going to take a look at what are the gives and takes of producing something like this for the masses versus producing some of their other hardware that is traditionally their bread and butter. So for Microsoft, it would be the Xbox. For Apple, of course, it would be the iPhone or iPad. And they've had issues with production, both of them, on this. And it'll be a market share fight. And the key is what's going to gain these companies more of a market share in the end. And I can't answer that. I think these companies are putting some research into it, and they will answer that. I don't know if they're putting the right sort of research into it, because I think, for instance, Apple, I think, made a grave mistake in the pandemic, not being able to bring the 6th generation Apple TV hardware to market. Now for Xbox, you take a look at the price point of what they're looking at. You take a look at, the market and people having issues, possibly having holiday stuff. If they would bring it to market sooner rather than later, they might actually get more people involved in their digital marketplace. I don't know.
This would have leaked by now if there's anything coming soon, because pretty much the Xbox Series X and S had. So, personal opinion, what Microsoft is doing here, or Phil Spencer's laying the work for, is they might put out some kind of stick that's a proof of concept of, here's a device you plug into your TV to do this. Their long-term play is not making hardware that has this app on it. Their long-term play is putting this app out on the Android app store so that it runs an Android TV, getting it on the Fire TV app store, getting it on the Roku app store, getting it on the Apple TV app store, in the iOS app store, and things like that, and allowing people to play their games on those devices through the application, and then they just collect the subscription fees that way. They don't need another piece of hardware to compete here, because it's too hard right now. And imagine, look at all the trouble we've seen like Roku have with acquiring the rights to carry certain channels, streaming channels and things like that. For instance, they still don't have HBO Max. Microsoft doesn't want to be in that business. They sort of are right now, just by getting those applications on the Xbox. But at this point in time, I think it's like, we'll just take whatever app. We don't care. You start getting into the streaming stick market, where it's a $50 price point and trying to rush to have the best price point to sell hardware. That's not where they are right now. And that's not what they need to do.
I'm going to contradict myself a little bit here. And I'm going to say that I want a streaming device that will go 4K, potentially even 8K, but definitely now 4K at 120 hertz resolution. And I think that you can't get that nowadays ubiquitously, and that you do need dedicated hardware to do it. So if Microsoft wants to get the edge.
Well, they already built that. It's called the Xbox Series S and X.
And besides, Microsoft has the edge. It's the default browser.
I apparently would not do very good in sales for these big companies, but that's what I would lean towards. I would lean towards trying to get some premier streaming device out there that's in the Apple price range, not the Roku price range.
I guess time will tell.
I don't know that necessarily is going to lead to big dollars for them. Is the problem is everyone is all fixated on I can get a Fire TV stick for $50 and don't realize that a year from now or 2 years from now, that thing's going to be slow as molasses. Whereas if you bought a $200 NVIDIA Shield in 2015, they're still supporting that hardware, putting out new OS updates and things like that. So there is something to be said for that higher tier product, but a lot of people don't want to put that sunk cost into it. And I don't think that's the business that Microsoft wants to be in. That's already a business that people like Apple and Roku and Amazon and NVIDIA are in. And that they just want to get this application out there to get people to subscribe to Game Pass.
I don't know what their market share is and their revenue stream is for Xboxes, but if this is true and it goes to that, then eventually that revenue stream goes away, and then all they're left is with the software and the streaming revenue. I would think that
it's what they want to do.
I would think that in order to assure the future, that they would want to still dip their toe into the hardware market for future proofing.
I'll disagree with you, because it seems to me, from the way Phil Spencer has positioned the company and how they're leveraging Game Pass so hard, their plan is to eventually move away from having to have local hardware to be able to play these things and just have a box or a stick that allows you to stream from a data center, and that's where all the horsepower is. I think that's how they're positioning themselves. And again, we've gotten into this with cloud gaming before. This problem is still going to be everyone having those good Wi-Fi connections, but I mean, they just spent $7.5 billion on Bethesda, for instance, to leverage people into getting Game Pass, which will have these capabilities. I honestly think Microsoft's long-term plan is to not have gaming hardware out there, but to have this subscription so that you can play it on your PC or play it from the cloud on whatever device you want. I think that's the end play for them, because there's no money made in this hardware. You go and look at the specs to the Series X and the Series S. If Microsoft's making any money on them right now at launch, I would be shocked.
Well, I know that there's one thing that we can assure ourselves on with any of this, is that this is all Microsoft products, and so that will at some point leave Chris Farrell disappointed, because you know that if it's Microsoft gaming, there won't be Spider-Man.
For now.
All right, well, moving on to the next news point here. Stargate Pioneer, you were going to tell us today how Manu Bennett was kissed in space. Oh, wait, this was kissing Bennu. I'm disappointed now.
Now you broke my brain.
That's right. I haven't talked about this quite a lot because, quite frankly, I didn't know if it was going to be a success or not. So I was going to wait until it actually happened, and we still don't know if it's going to be a success. But I'm going to retail you the story of a probe kissing an asteroid. So this probe from NASA called OSIRIS-REx, it was orbiting this asteroid Bennu, which is in the same orbital plane as the Earth is, except for it's in between the Earth and Mars, really. So this probe actually had to go out there to Bennu, and it orbited it for a couple of years, and it got a really good mapping of it. But that's not what OSIRIS-REx really was for. In this article by spaceflightnow.com that was published on October 23rd, 2020 by Stephen Clark, he said that the sampling mechanism, yes, that's what I said, sampling mechanism, on NASA's tongue twister there, OSIRIS-REx spacecraft is stuffed with specimens captured from the asteroid Bennu earlier this week. The fun part is actually how this happened. Officials said Friday they will stow the samples inside the mission's Earth return capsule sooner than planned to minimize loss of asteroid material. So here's what happened. NASA's $1 billion Origins Spectral Interpretation, Resource Identification, Security, Regolith Explorer, that's what OSIRIS-REx stands for, aims to become the first U.S. spacecraft to complete a round-trip journey to an asteroid. You got that right. I said round trip journey. That means it's going to the asteroid and back. So after nearly a 2-year close-up survey of asteroid Bennu, which is a clump of rock measuring about 1/3 of a mile wide, the OSIRIS-REx spacecraft descended to the world Tuesday for a celestial smash and grab. Its goal was to capture at least 2.1 ounces or 60 grams of pebbles, rock fragments, and dust particles for return to Earth. This is important because this asteroid is deemed to be the primordial stuff of the solar system. So this is pre-planet formation here. So scientists in sophisticated terrestrial laboratories will then scrutinize the asteroid samples, which might contain carbon-rich organic molecules and other minerals containing water. Both types of specimens were part of the primordial soup of ingredients that seeded life on Earth. Now, data and imagery relayed to Earth from OSIRIS-REx earlier this week indicated the spacecraft performed as intended with its touch-and-go sample acquisition mechanism, or TAGASM. Robotic arm contacted the asteroid for 6 seconds Tuesday. So what happened is it lowered this you know how the air cleaner on a car used to look like? It was round and it had a bunch of, little cavities to it and stuff like that. Well, they sent a probe down off of the arm off OSIRIS-REx to touch the asteroid. It expelled nitrogen gas, which then sucked the samples, these loose rock samples, up into collection devices around this probe. And then it took back off. So the whole operation took 6 seconds. It came down, kissed the asteroid, expelled nitrogen gas. So basically gave it a Zerbert, kissed it, whatever you want to call it, and then took back off. And they didn't know if they got anything or not. They had enough fuel to go back down to the surface of Bennu, and they tilted the collection device up to the camera. They took a shot of it and they were like, oh my gosh, we got so much. So instead of doing anything else right now, there is a lot of material that is actually floating around the collection device, so that they're going to try to shove the collection device into the sample return device as soon as they can, and hopefully capture everything and then come back to Earth. So the next step for OSIRIS-REx will be to place the sampling mechanism inside the return capsule mounted on the spacecraft, which is 31 inches in diameter. The sample return capsule is designed to protect the asteroid sample during re-entry into Earth's atmosphere, which right now is scheduled for September 24th, 2023. Guys, we actually contacted an asteroid. We're heading back home.
All right, so here's the question. Did we pick up the aliens? Because this seems like an elaborate cover-up to pick up the aliens and stealthily bring them back. Is they go, oh yeah, we're just doing samples here. It's not a big deal. We just won't talk about it until it happens. It's definitely aliens.
You can believe what you want to believe, and if NASA has its way, this thing's going to re-enter right onto your house.
You got to do the pose because aliens.
It is. It's totally aliens. And the thing is, if we were to hypothesize a little bit about this, the fact that Stargate Pioneer mentioned that he specifically was not talking about it, we can only assume that he was part of the cover-up.
You can assume whatever you want. Doesn't make it right.
I assumed he delegated this to Suncast since he's already in space. Or is Suncast too busy hiding the secrets of water on the moon right now?
All right. Well, anyways, sounds like a perverted article, and I'm a little disappointed that you brought up space kissing.
Whoa. You just wish you could kiss in space.
This is why we had to have you Canadians sign the Artemis Treaty.
All right. Well, thank you very much for telling us about this. This is pretty cool, actually, and sounds like a good success so far.
Yeah. This has been a good space year so far in 2020. I hate to say it, but it has been. And I'm really looking forward to 2021 when we get to Mars and when we launch the James Webb Space Telescope.
Well, moving on to the next news point here. This one is a little bit out of the podcast world. I don't know if you know this, but the three of us here do podcasts. It's something that we like to do in our other endeavors.
I do netcasts. Thank you.
Thank you. Fair enough.
Jeez.
Well, we do some form of creative media in addition to our OnlyFans pages. So we absolutely are part of the podcast world, all three of us, and have been for a little while. And we've all been in the game long enough to have started out basing our hardware, our audio equipment from the path of musicians and otherwise, and maybe some other streamers as well. If you didn't know this, one of the staples in the realm of the creative world, you'll see streamers use this, you'll see musicians use this, you'll see podcasters who use this, sometimes you'll even see netcasters use this, is the Shure Sm7b. The Sm7b is a microphone that I think is a little bit overrated, but seems to work really well for certain people.
It is well known that I actually gave up my SM7B. I literally gave it away. I didn't sell it.
He did.
I gave it away. I was so disheartened with it.
Yes. I think that it's got history, and that's why it's as popular as it is. I think it works well on a wide variety of voices, but I think that there's a good sample of voices that the SM7B sound better on other microphones. However,
it also looks good in video, because I've seen that West Virginia University, for instance, head coach Neil Brown of the football team, they put an SM7B in front of his face, and on the butt of the mic they put the Flying WV, because it's got that flat bass with nothing on it, and it looks good on TV.
Yeah. So the SM7B, though, putting aside personal opinions, is a pretty well-known microphone within the podcast and broadcast realm. Well, Shure is getting in on the idea of creating dual-purpose microphones. If you didn't know this, one of my favorite microphones to recommend to a new podcaster is something like the not the Blue Yeti, the Audio-Technica AT2005, the Samson Q2U, or the Audio-Technica ATR2100. And the reason why I recommend both of these is because not only does it sound good, but it has something that Blue Yeti that Chris Farrell is caressing in his hands does not have. It has the dual ability. Not only does it have an XLR jack on the bottom, it also has a USB connectivity. So if you don't have a preamp or something like that to power the analog connection, you can plug it in USB directly to your computer. And we've been seeing more of these come out lately. There's been a few other companies in the microphone world that are creating them, and Shure is the latest one. They announced the MV7, which is being released to have that dual connectivity. Now, the price is quite a bit cheaper, so you can set your expectations as such. It looks like while the average going Marca price is around $400, of the Shure SM7B, the MV7 is going to be priced around $250 is what it's looking like. So it's not the cheapest microphone in the world, but it's not as expensive as some of those bigger microphones in the 7B range. This one I wanted to bring up because not only obviously is podcasting near and dear to me, I do a show with, he's a bit of dead weight, but anyways, it's called Better Podcasting. You can check that. No, I'm kidding. Stargate Pioneer and I do Better Podcasting over there, and it's a team collaborative effort. I'm just joking, SP. But not only is it because of that, because I think that there is a lot of potential here with other streaming. Earlier we talked about Twitch streamers. A lot of Twitch streamers, when they go to try to get in on the big world, they either go the obvious random condenser far away, or if they know a little bit about audio, I often see them get excited when they get the 7B because they've seen that everywhere. Like Chris says, it looks good. So I'm really interested to see what this does, especially at a more affordable price, because I think there are enough streamers out there who do know that audio quality does matter to a degree, that this might actually have a pretty good market for people who want that dual purpose and that easy ability to hook up to their computer from a reputable brand name. Sure, they're a huge brand name.
Sure they are.
All right, Stargate Pioneer, since I took a untruthful shot at you, go ahead and start off.
Yeah, I would not recommend the Blue Yeti to any starting podcaster. There are many reasons for it. If you want to know more about that, you can hit me up anywhere or listen to any number of Better Podcasting episodes. However, this MV7 is interesting to me. I didn't know anything about it until this previous weekend when I started hearing some rumblings about it. I knew it was going to come out this week. The MV7 is, in my opinion, of the same class as the Rode Pod mic, which is about $100, or the Zoom ZDM1, which is $80, and it's probably going to sound like it's in that quality. The reason that it's $250, in my opinion, and I don't know too much about it, but I would say it is because it had that duality of outputs where it is both USB and XLR, which would make it incredibly versatile. If I was starting out today and I had listened to some reviews of the microphone, it might be the one that I would recommend to go with, because it would sound a little bit better in the long term. Now, I don't know what explosive sounds like. I don't know what its off-axis rejection sounds like. I don't know what it normally sounds like it's nice and smooth with a voice. Are there some voices that it sounds better than others? I don't know any of that right now. I just know that I'm glad that a main microphone maker like Shure is entering into the fray with these cheaper podcasting microphones to make a better sound available to more people that want to go forward. I don't know when they started development on this. I'm guessing it was pre-pandemic, and just the pandemic made everything that's streaming much, much better. Like, the whole reason that I bought a way too expensive Zoom H8 earlier this year was I wanted to use it on the road to try to get a better microphone into my travel gear and to be able to do some other stuff with it. Well, the Zoom or the Shure MV7 could very well be that part of the better sound without having to bring a lot of extra, more expensive gear. So I'm curious as to how this is going to transform the podcasting and the streaming markets. So we'll just have to see, but I am glad to see more people doing more enhanced versions of the USB and XLR microphones.
Chris, I'm curious your reaction to this microphone as well, because I'm glad you brought up the look of it, because I think you and I have tried to balance the look and sound a little bit more, the balancing, than SP. That's not a shot. SP's gone pretty much all in on the audio and you know, let the visual be like quite secondary. I think you and I have more sort of balanced the two of them over the time. And I'm curious, what's your thoughts about the visual of this? And, you know, would that influence you? And what do you think that it'll do for streamers and things like that?
Streamers, I think, are looking for the simplest solution. And Suncast in the chat room was saying, doesn't Elgato have something like this? And yes, they do have their own microphone that Elgato has that they've integrated into Stream Deck and all of their other tools. And it's surprisingly cool. So I guess if you're looking at a Twitch streamer point of view, this might not be at the top of the list immediately just because it's not something they're exposed to as much. But it looks fine. I mean, far be it for me to judge. I got a good deal on my mic, and that's why I upgraded, and I haven't really looked at swapping out anything since. So the fact that I like the look of the mic and the sound of the mic, that's just a bonus. It was just better equipment.
All right. So bottom line, you're going to buy one of these so you can put a sticker of my face on the end of it. Is that what I'm hearing?
Are you paying for it?
The sticker? Sure. I'll pay for the sticker.
And the microphone.
No, not the microphone.
You pay for 51% of the microphone, I'll buy it.
51%.
51%.
I will pay 51 cents towards that microphone.
Nope, that's not how it works. Yeah, and Suncast is right in the chat room. It's the Elgato Wave. Is Elgato's...
And it's not the same, because the Elgato is a condenser microphone. It's a side address microphone. It's not an end address dynamic cardioid microphone like.
But from a streamer perspective, they don't care about that. They just care about something that they recognize the name of and that works with their rigs.
Well, and
I would disagree.
I think, like, what I think SP is saying is, like, I don't think that it's a comparison between the two, because there are other, like, there's a bunch of different microphones that are branded for podcasters that are very different in specs to this microphone. So I get what he's saying there. I think that there's definitely a certain streaming appeal that's going to, like, some streamers are just going to probably go, oh, I've seen that one before. Could be the Blue Yeti, could be something else. But then I do think that there are some people who do try to go with name brands and stuff like that. And I saw it on football.
I think we need to make a distinction between streamers and podcasters in this regard, because I don't know that Twitch streamers necessarily have quite the same considerations that podcasters and vidcasters, or whatever term you want to go with, may have. And that's just personal belief, because they're more focused on the video capture and the tools to help them interact with the chat room. Having the 100% greatest mic for things is not necessarily as important as having a stable stream and good video quality that's going out there.
I think that there's an evolution, and that's kind of how I know I said that when I started this. I think there are certain ones that are, and I think you're starting to see that more.
Well, those folks on the higher end, you're starting to see that. But if you're talking about someone who is not a professional streamer, having the kind of gear we have is not necessarily as important as having a better PC that can run all of these things.
Well, and that's why I was bringing up this in the context to streamers, because the USB completely changes that, right? Like, you no longer need all of what we have for podcasters. That's the whole idea of a USB microphone, is it's plug and play, right? So that's sort of why I was kind of curious. I'm curious. I'm not ready to say that streamers are going to dive right onto this, but I think that streamers are more likely to dive into a USB option.
Oh, most definitely. Because I would wager, and I have no facts to back this up, it's just an assumption I'm making from stuff I've consumed on Twitch. The vast majority of people who are playing and streaming, they're probably running in with a USB mic that's plugged in their computer, selected as one of their sources in OBS or XSplit or something like that, because that's the simplest and easiest way to do it, versus having a mixer to run music in. They're doing all of it virtually on their machines, versus us having hardware where we run our own stuff in.
Exactly. And I think we're going to continue to see these USB microphones come forward for that reason. And the last piece of news before Chris gets to the segment, he wanted to quickly talk about Oscar Isaac.
Yes, for those that aren't familiar, Oscar Isaac is the actor who many of you may know as Poe Dameron from the Disney Star Wars movies. He was also Apocalypse in Star Wars, X-Men Apocalypse. He's done a variety of different indie films and whatnot. But the news did come out today that supposedly Oscar Isaac has been cast as the lead for a new Disney Plus series about Moon Knight. This then follows up with, we know that they've cast 3 new main characters for 3 series. We have a rumored Tatiana Maslany role of She-Hulk and a newcomer of Iman Vellani, who will be playing Ms. Marvel. So these are the new series that will presumably be coming to Disney Plus, and Oscar Isaac is a big get. He is a very good actor. And I'm curious to see how well he does with Moon Knight, because that character is insane and has multiple personality disorder and like flips between different kind of character traits. And Oscar Isaac is a very good actor who I think is going to have fun playing all of the different aspects of that character.
I saw Disney using him when the first Star Wars of the most recent trilogy flopped, because I think that absolutely he was underused in that, and unfortunately underappreciated as
he was supposed to die originally in The Force Awakens, and they liked him, so they kept him alive, is what I had read.
Oh, wow. Yeah. I just think that he was completely underused, and unfortunately doesn't have a good association in their universe or in the Disney properties right now, because Star Wars is hit and miss with opinions. So
he also said he would not do any Disney Plus Star Wars series, much like John Boyega has said, and I believe Daisy Ridley may have said also, is that they're all kind of like, yeah, we're out. But the fact that they're able to sign him on the Marvel side of the house kind of shows you how much in better regard, I guess, Marvel may be held in the industry. Kevin Feige specifically is probably one of the driving factors there, who is, while he's not directly running all of the Marvel TV shows, still has oversight over all of that stuff and has handed it off to trusted advisors, is my understanding. So I think it's a really good get. I think he's a fantastic actor. And those of you that are on Twitter, they're like, oh, Oscar Isaac sold out. Boo. Come on. If Marvel was going to offer you a crap load of money to go do a TV show that was going to have a near unlimited budget, hell yeah, I would think that's an actor's dream.
Yeah. SP, what's your thoughts?
Marvel has a history of using well-known actors in the new roles that come up. They're not ones for taking an unknown like Star Wars traditionally was and throwing them into some of the major roles. So I'm not surprised that Marvel went after a known talent like Isaac. And I will see what the future holds. The whole Marvel Cinematic Universe and the related Disney Plus thing is so much on hold because of the pandemic, and we've basically been parked at Endgame. So it was a good stopping point for Marvel, but to really guesstimate on anything else coming up without having seen anything at all is very difficult. And I will reserve judgment for when it comes out. Yes, I have faith in Kevin Feige because he got from the beginning to Endgame, and it was wildly successful, perhaps the most successful film franchise or IP franchise in history to date, right? But they left it at such a weird point that it's just difficult to say what's going to go on in the future. I have no idea what kind of meddling Disney is having here. And we all saw what happened with Star Wars. Arguably, it was less than successful, even though monetarily it was a success. I don't know if the IP survived what the sequels did. So I don't know. We'll see.
Which perfectly takes me to a reminder. If you would like to buy the GonnaGeek.com show and drive it into the ground, I'll entertain like half what they paid for Star Wars. Feel free to come my way. So I'll entertain that offer.
For Star Wars or Star Wars The Holiday Special pricing? What are we talking about?
The entire Star Wars property that they purchased Disney from.
$2.05 billion, roughly.
I'll give you $350.
$350?
$3.50. $3.50.
We'll talk afterwards. I might take you up on that. Let's go ahead and move on to Chris's segment.
I'm back with app suggestions or some background on an app that I think may be helpful. Now, caveat, this is the official Xbox app, so if you don't have an Xbox, it may not be as beneficial to you, but please hang in there. We'll get to talk about some cool stuff as we're going. So the official Xbox app, if you are not familiar, has been completely redesigned as a precursor to the Xbox Series S and Series X launch. It is available on iOS, Android, and Windows 10. So I did mention they completely redesigned the app. Why was that? To make an emphasis on speediness. The app is super snappy now. It doesn't take forever to load the store or your friends list or anything like that. So I guess the real question is, why is Chris talking about this app other than the fact that he's probably overly excited about the fact he's getting a new console soon and it's coloring all of the news stories that he does on Gonna Geek and the All Things Good and Nerdy show, which is a fair statement. Well, because I think there's some merits to talking about what Microsoft has done to improve this app. And at the same time, also keep in mind that Sony has a similar app for the PlayStation 5. So let's get into the Xbox app, talk about some of the things that we can do within. One of the major things is when you pull up the app, you can check and see your friends list, who all's online. You can text your friends via the Xbox Messenger service. You can view their achievements, things like that. So if you're sitting there going, man, I really want to play Destiny tonight, but I need to see if Steven's online because I like to partner up with Steven. Instead of having to fire up your Xbox, change the inputs on your TV, pull out your phone, open the Xbox app, go to the Friends tab, like, Steven's online, but he's playing Grand Theft Auto. I didn't know he played that game, or something like that to that effect. You could then send him a message like, hey, want to play some Destiny or some other game? And he, in theory, could then text you back in the game or send you a voice message. On the home screen of this app, they also kind of promote other games you may want to play. They have a list of recommended games that is seemingly curated based off the games that you have been playing on your Xbox. And they probably can base that off of your achievements and your gamer score. They can be like, oh, he's got 26 achievements in Mass Effect, but only 1 in Call of Duty. So we need to look at like space RPGs and recommend those kind of things to Chris. Additionally, you can look at your profile. You can view all of the achievements that you have earned within the Xbox ecosystem. And you could be like, I think I've got everything for Mass Effect 3. Pull up your achievements, be like, no, I'm missing 2, and find out what they are and then decide to go work them. So it gives you a view of pretty much everything you could view on the Xbox itself in the app. Another thing that is really cool on there that I wish that my PlayStation app had is that you can do party chat via the Xbox application on your phone. Now you can do party chat on the Xbox itself, start it, plug in your headset, start talking to people. But if you're playing remote or say you're playing a streaming game with other folks, you can do party chat, plug in your headphones and talk to people just as if you were on your Xbox.
I wish you would have given our younger listeners a warning that this app wasn't for them, because I remember back in the 90s, they had all sorts of party line telephone numbers, and they were seductive. They were for adults. So is that what this is? This is a party chat like that?
Well, no. So the terminology there, party, is when you get a group of folks together to play a game, or if it's just some of your friends you like to talk to while you're playing separate games or something like that. You get a group of gamers in one audio chat room and you converse back and forth is what party chat is.
Oh, so it's not part A through D, it's part E. Thank you.
There you go. So another thing that's really cool in the application that they've updated and made some changes to is you can search the marketplace for upcoming games, see what they cost. But what is really cool is you can install games ahead of time. And by that, I mean, Watch Dogs Legacy comes out this Thursday, I believe it is, as we record this. It is a game I pre-ordered a disc-based copy of. In the past, there was no way to pre-install a game on your hard disk if it was something you'd bought a disc-based copy from. So as soon as it came in, you'd stick the disc in the drive. It's going to say it's going to take an hour to copy this, and there's a 7 gig patch it has to do. So you got to wait 2-3 hours, depending on your internet, to go and play this game. They have now added a feature in the Xbox app that you can look up any of these games. You can tell it to install this on my Xbox now, so that when you get the disc, you pop the disc in, and it just lets you start playing immediately. This is a really cool feature. In addition, you can also download to your Xbox any games you already own. So say you'd been clearing some space off there and you went, oh, I want to play GTA 4, but I deleted it recently. You can go search it in the application and download it to your Xbox, as long as you have linked your Xbox to your account properly, meaning you're signed in with the same gamer tag on both your Xbox and this application. I think this is one of the cool, underrated capabilities there, because if you bought a game digitally, it would download ahead of time as soon as it's available, and at 12:01 a.m. on launch date, you could play it. But being able to download ahead of time if you purchase the disc-based version of the game, this is awesome, and I can't wait to play Watch Dogs as soon as it arrives on Thursday. I can literally just take it out of my mailbox, put the disc in, and start playing. I also did the same thing with Borderlands 3 when I bought that just recently. I ordered it. It was going to come in 2 days. I went, oh, let me install this on my Xbox. Installed it on my Xbox. It was good to go the next day. I could not play because it has to authenticate off the disc. But once the disc came in, problem solved, was able to work that. This is a cool, underrated feature when it comes to viewing the library of games you have and games that are available. Should also mention that you can view all of your personal library of games, be it ones you've installed to your Xbox or ones you have just purchased. And you can also, like I said, install any of those games you have purchased already on your Xbox. We also live in an age now where when you're playing video games, everyone has a feature regardless of the system you're playing on, PS4, Nintendo Switch, Xbox. You do something cool in game, you want to be able to take a picture of it or clip the last 30 seconds of your gameplay and share it on social media. Well, you can do that on the Xbox, and then you can use the app itself, the Xbox app, to then share that media. Because the way it all works is it's all built into Microsoft's cloud servers. As soon as you clip something from a game, it then uploads that to the Microsoft servers. And from the application, you can look at it and be like, oh, this was a really cool headshot I got. I want to share it with all my friends on Twitter. You hit the share button, you choose Twitter, and then it posts a tweet with that clip in it. It is really cool, and it gets you away from one of the most painful things about trying to share clips and video footage off of the devices themselves, which is keyboards on consoles suck because you have to just move your cursor around using the D-pad to enter in text. Being on your cell phone or your tablet or your PC, you just type it out, takes about a third of the time or less probably, and hit the share button, and you're good to go. So this includes things like game clips, game pictures, things like that. I'm not huge into sharing that kind of stuff, but I know there are a lot of folks that are really keen to be like, oh, I got this great headshot when I was playing, or hey, I pulled off this really killer combo in this fighting game. They make it a lot easier to share this kind of information now, which I think is pretty cool. In regards to your local Xbox, you have the ability to have a remote control for your Xbox on your device, be it a laptop, cell phone, or tablet. You can go to your Xbox, hit the remote control button, and it brings a remote control up on screen that gives you directional menu buttons for, say, watching DVDs and Blu-rays, things like that. And like I mentioned, you can manage your installed games. You can install, uninstall, things like that on your local machine. Now, one of the things that I haven't got a chance to try yet, but Microsoft has been touting, is you can use this application to do a lot of the setup on your new Xbox Series S or X device when it comes in. Instead of having to sign in manually using the thumbsticks on your controller to spell out your gamer tag and password, things like that, you will be able to use the application to do that sign in, and then presumably just do a confirmation code against your system to then link the account. I don't know all the details about it, but Larry Herb, aka Major Nelson, who kind of does all the community outreach for Xbox, has been talking about that on Reddit and on Twitter. All of these things I talked about right now, they're cool, but here's the real reason if you have an Xbox, you might want to go and download this application. They have an ability in here called Remote Play. Now, this is different than the xCloud streaming that I talked about at the beginning of the show. For those that don't remember, xCloud is, if you're a Game Pass subscriber, you can basically have your cell phone or your tablet, as long as it is Android, with you, and basically launch an instance of your games in Microsoft's cloud server and start playing on your device. In this case, if you are doing remote play, you use your own Xbox to stream games to you, once you have, of course, enabled it on your own Xbox. This works on PC, this works on Android, and more importantly, remote play works on iOS. We know I mentioned before that the game streaming as part of the Game Pass subscription is not approved on iOS. However, if you do remote play, which does not cost anything, you don't even have to be a gold subscriber, you can stream that to your iOS devices because you are using your own Xbox, not stuff that is in the cloud. So how does it work? It's very similar to Game Pass game streaming. Once you have set up your Xbox, you need to pair a Bluetooth controller with the device you'll be playing, and then you basically play. The app supports the ability to access your Xbox console over Wi-Fi, LTE, 5G. It lets you take control of your home Xbox. You can remotely start it outside your home. And when you start up your Xbox to play a game, this is what's kind of cool. It doesn't start up the Xbox in your entertainment center, light it up, and you hear it booting up, anything like that. The lights stay off. It'll start consuming a bit more power. But as far as anyone would know that is in the room, the Xbox will still appear to be off. The light stays off. When you disconnect, after a few minutes of inactivity, the Xbox resumes its standby capability. So you sort of get around Game Pass's limitations if you're an iOS user. There's no additional cost. And like I mentioned, if you're an iOS user, this is the way to get around those. You rely on streaming from your own home Xbox. You could, if you're a Game Pass subscriber, install these games locally on your Xbox and then stream them to yourself that way. It's not necessarily elegant, but it is a way to get around Apple's strange restrictions on not allowing the Game Pass streaming in the application. Now, one major caveat to all of these remote play features: this is all dependent on your local network. On your own Wi-Fi, if you're playing on your own interior network, you shouldn't have any problem streaming things. But if you are going out of the house, say you wanted to play while you're sitting in the car waiting to pick up the kids after school or something like that, your limitation is really going to be the size of your upload pipe where your Xbox is connected. If you only get 5 megabits up, you're probably not going to have a great experience streaming content from your Xbox to your cell phone. But if you have 25, 35 megabit per second connection, it's probably smooth as butter, man. And you'll be able to play your Xbox games from your Xbox anywhere you are. You have effectively made your phone or tablet or PC a remote instance of your Xbox, which I think is really cool. And full disclosure, Sony has a very similar capability in their remote play capability on the PS4. So Microsoft has not cornered the market on this or anything like that. They have an equivalent product to Sony in this regard. But it is a neat, cool way to interact with things, and I have to give them credit. The Xbox app in the past on Android and iOS had been slow and clunky and was painful at times to load things. I don't think it took long to load anything. Like navigating between tabs was snappy. Searching for things, be it games or friends on Xbox Live, was snappy and responsive. They have made this app so that even on my old hardware of a phone that is 3-4 years old at this point in time, it runs just fine. And I think it is a good sign of things to come. And if you are someone who has an Xbox One device right now or plans on getting one of the Xbox Series S or X devices, download the app and you can start making your life a little bit easier in some things. If you don't have an Xbox device, I don't think there's much utility. You could sign up and have an account and do party chat through there, I guess. But yeah, if you're an Xbox gamer, get the Xbox app.
I have to say, I have had this since we got the Xbox, nearly 2 years ago, the app. And I set it up, I believe, because I determined early on it would help me with my setup. Now, I think it was clunkier than what you've described. At the time, I think I just did it because then I would have a phone that I could input the information. It acted more like a remote control than what you were saying. And I'll be honest, it didn't work very well at the time. But reading or hearing you talk about all of this information, I really feel stupid for not really opening it much more than just the occasional thing that I go in there to look at a setting or whatever. I didn't even know about all of the seeing your games and seeing all the standings and the chat feature, and I had no idea about the remote play. So now I definitely have to check this out. I was going to say so I could play games at work, but you know what? I work at home right now. So
I mean, but it does make it with remote play so that if your Xbox is upstairs and say your kids are on the main TV and you really want to play something, you could then play it on your PC or your phone or something like that. I have used it in the past. They've had remote streaming for a while. I've actually played GTA on my laptop because people were watching a football game upstairs on the TV and I still wanted to play GTA. So I was sitting on the floor with my Xbox controller plugged into my laptop, playing GTA off my Xbox while we were watching football.
I never thought of that. There's like, I've actually got a lot of good use case for that. Mm-hmm. Oh man.
Also useful for your kids. Also, if you're like, no, dad wants to watch this, but you want to play Xbox, you get your crappy old netbook, or well, netbook may not run it, but an older laptop. And since it is not doing the processing locally, it's all done by your Xbox on the local area network. Probably be okay to play that way too.
Is there anything that would plug into another TV that would work? That would be not terribly expensive to run this app?
In theory, you could sideload the Xbox app on, say, the new Google Chromecast, and that might work. I'm not 100% sure of that, however, because I haven't seen anyone talk about trying that. But in theory, yeah, you could try it if you want. Try and sideload on the official Xbox app, or if you have that Samsung refrigerator with a tablet basically built into the front of it, sideload the app there. We've seen it work for Game Pass streaming, so I assume it would probably still work in some way, shape, or form on there. Just bear in mind, it's not officially supported, and some things may be a little wonky in trying to do setup on there.
Well, I definitely got to look at this some more. And when you played it on your computer, how did you play? Did you have what did you pair for controller wise?
I have an Xbox 360 wired controller that I play a lot of PC games with. So all I did was just plug that into my laptop and it recognized it immediately. You could also Bluetooth pair. The current controllers that come with Xboxes are also Bluetooth in addition to their proprietary Wi-Fi connection they use between the devices. So you just pair it via Bluetooth to your phone, tablet, PC, whatever, and you can play that way as well. You have to have a controller though.
Does the controller need to be paired with the Xbox?
No, with your device that you are playing on.
Okay.
Because in theory, if you were not in the house, for instance, that controller would not be able to pair with said Xbox. So it pairs with the remote device that is then getting the stream from your Xbox, for lack of a better term.
I got a couple of brand new controllers just sitting in boxes, and I have not done this yet. I do not have the Xbox app on any of my iOS devices. I might wait until I get the new iPhone 12, but this was looking like something I should be doing.
Yeah. You have enlightened us both here today, Chris Farrell. You should pat yourself on the back and take an extra few days off before we do the next Gonna Geek show.
So one thing to keep in mind as you try this, similar to what I would caution with some of the Game Pass apps, is a lot of these games are designed to be displayed on a big television. Some of the HUD elements and like text on screen may not scale well down to a cell phone display. So just beware that in some games it may be a little harder to read the on-screen fonts or something like that because they're not designed to be on a display that small.
Well, this would be to play games like Portal or
you should be fine for that.
The original Mass Effect or
that's absolutely fine.
That. Yeah, because I've been a really slow gamer for a lot of reasons, but I haven't progressed as much as I would have loved to.
And I should also point out my Xbox One X is wirelessly connected, and I have not had any issues, but it is also close to one of my mesh nodes, so I'm not having to worry about wireless degradation. Ideally, you have this on the 5 gigahertz channel for your Wi-Fi or wired because you want as good a stream as you can get
Yeah.
Well, that's another reason why I would want to wait for the iPhone 12 because it is 5G. And if I'm not at home, I would be able to take advantage of advanced connectivity.
Right. But your bigger problem, like I mentioned in this, is going to be the pipe of getting the Xbox out to your phone. If your upload speed is terrible in your home connection for something like that, or you are far away from the access point in your house and you're only getting like a 3 megabit per second upload, then your stream will suffer.
So what is the minimum you're looking at? 10, 20, 100?
I need to look at that because I honestly don't remember.
Because if it's 10, I could deal with it. If it's 15, I might be taxing. If it's anything bigger than that, I don't know if I have the capability.
Well, so if you're in your own house, it's not going to be a problem. But if you were outside the house, that would be more problematic.
Okay.
Well, Chris Farrell,
it recommends a 4.75 megabit per second upload, although the preferred upload speed is 9 megabits per second, according to the article I was just finding.
So if I'm the only thing on my Wi-Fi, I'm good.
You could set your quality of service rules so that gets priority.
It's just me in the house anymore, so it's no big deal. But
yeah,
that's cool. I definitely am going to have to look into this more because, yeah, I actually, the other question I've got though, does the remote play work? Have you tried headset into the controller over remote play? Does that work?
I don't know if headset into the controller would work, but I assume because of the way the application works, if you started party chat on the Xbox app and had your headphones plugged in, then it would work that way for letting you do chat and stuff like that. I honestly don't know because I haven't tried it.
That's an interesting question because, I've been playing Squadrons and that's cross-platform with a chat component to it. So I'm wondering how this would work through through Squadrons specifically.
Yeah.
I know Squadrons has had a lot of bugs in it, and I've heard a lot of people say it's not going to last through the holidays, but I would like to play it while it's still around.
It also doesn't support co-op play as well.
I will definitely,
your cell phone.
I will definitely be trying this in a few different ways because I do have kids, and sometimes there is problems where one of them wants to do one thing on the television.
So clarification, I'm on Xbox's support site about headsets. On most mobile devices, a Bluetooth headset can be connected at the same time as your Bluetooth controller for game audio and party chat. If you're having trouble pairing or connecting your headset, they give you some steps there. So plugging into the bottom of your Xbox remote or controller, rather, they don't seem to indicate would do anything. I'd say give it a try, but at the very least, if you got your Bluetooth headphones, put them on, do party chat that way, and you're good to go.
But you said that I could. You've given me all sorts of ideas because, I wouldn't there is sometimes that I would like to fire up the game and I could do it on my computer now, right? Because you said Windows 10 app, right?
There is a Windows 10 application for it. Now, other things to consider if you're playing outside the house is you need to go and check your NAT type and things like that. If you're on a moderate NAT type, you're probably okay, but strict probably won't work. Is some of the stuff they've been concerned with, excuse me.
All right. Well, Chris Farrell, you have just probably ruined my podcasting endeavors because now I have no excuse not to game.
What was there to ruin? Well, Chris, guess you're taking us out tonight.
Thanks, everyone, for joining us on this week's installment of the official GonnaGeek.com show. Since Steven's heart has been broken, I don't think we can hit any buttons to transition out, but we can say... send your condolences to Steven for having his heart broken. That's at Steven John Drew on Twitter.
So is there anything that you would like to plug or promote? Let's start with SP since he didn't actually, since I took a shot earlier. He took a shot. Now we're even.
What, a Patron, whiskey? What do you guys take shots of?
Oh man, there's so much to take shots of. No, what I want to do is I want to promote a podcast on the Gonna Geek Network called Play Comics. It's done by Chris, also known as Original Waffles, in our Discord chat. He actually is asking for some feedback. So he has a survey available. And to get the link, you'll have to go to our Discord server. So gonnageek.com/Discord. Go to the Play Comics channel. You will find his survey link in there and give him some feedback. That would be awesome to do for Chris.
Different Chris, too, for clarification. There is more than one Chris in the world.
That's true. Sadly, we share our names with others.
Chris, is there anything that you would like to plug or promote?
So 2 things real quick, one more fun than the other. We are going back to playing Among Us on Tuesday night this week. That will be on October 27th. And for sure, a week from Tuesday, because that is election night in the United States, I will be playing. So if anyone wants to come and join me instead of doom scrolling Twitter, please feel free. And on a side note, just this is an interesting factoid I saw this morning. There's a Twitter account that I follow that kind of tracks United States election numbers so far. So far in the United States, we have had 63 million people vote early or via absentee ballot. So if you're in the United States, please add yourself to that number. Please make sure you vote. I would not presume to tell anyone who to vote for. I would just ask that you please vote. Voter turnout is insanely high right now.
I just want to point out that last week I thought, it was a projection I probably heard, that 50 million people had voted is what I said. And Chris corrected me at that point. It was only like 28 or so. I just want to point out that a week later, it's more than 50 million, Chris.
Yes,
I was right.
You were right eventually. So side note, if you want to see these numbers for yourself, you can follow @Elect Project on Twitter. It is a professor out of the University of Florida who studies election numbers and science and things like that, and does daily updates of all of the ballot numbers so far with specific updates from specific states. It is fascinating to watch. Again, I will not presume to tell anyone who they should or shouldn't vote for, but it is fascinating to see the action of voting going on right now and how those numbers are growing.
And as I mentioned last week, in the province of British Columbia, we also had an election. And I say had because it's done and over. So I say instead of registering to vote like these two are doing, just crack a beer and have
I already voted BT Dubs. I'd already registered. I've gotten confirmation that my absentee ballot was received already.
Well, you can also crack a beer then.
This is a good question. So are you planning on being entertained, because of course you're not an American citizen, by the election results? Is there going to be some sort of stream that you can watch next week? I wouldn't do it either, but I'm just curious.
Twitch.tv/Justin R. Young will be doing a politics live stream, which would be entertaining because Justin is a funny guy and will probably make the results coming in be entertaining.
Well, we do. Like, we get all the American channels, so, you know, and, you know,
the
I'm
news
sure.
Channels?
Yeah, well, we do, yeah. And, well, we get some of them, and it doesn't really matter because, like, the ABC channel, like, we get ABC and NBC and, you know, CBS and all that stuff. So we'll have the usual programming that you guys will, where it'll just be election talk all night there. And
oh boy,
and I'll just wrap up the show. So for episode number 351 of the official GonnaGeek.com show, I'm Stephen Chandru saying, see, sometimes I can bite my tongue.
I'm Chris Farrell, and I voted.
And I'm SP saying Extra Life's coming up. Make sure you support your Extra Life streamer as you want.
Yes. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for checking out another episode of the official GonnaGeek.com show. If you like the show, please give us a 5-star review in Apple Podcasts or a thumbs up on YouTube. You can always join us for our live recording sessions, which stream Mondays at 8:45 p.m. Eastern at www.geeks.live. And remember, you can find our full back catalog at GonnaGeek.com/show. If you're itching for more geeky content, check out other shows on GonnaGeekNetwork.com. Voice work was by Emily Prokop of The Story Behind podcast. That's it for this episode. We hope to see you back again next week.
All right, thanks everybody for coming on by. We hope you had yourself a fun time. Good old grand time. Did you have a grand time?
Grand old time.
Thanks for the chat. Greatly appreciate the chat. Always fun.
John, Dane, Albert. Albert, you're the man. I think you're the most consistent out of everybody that comes here. I mean, everybody is, but you are probably the most consistent. So
agreed, 100%. If anybody has anything that you... What?
7.3 million people have voted in Texas already. I pulled up the GitHub site.
Jeez,
that he runs.
Insane.
6 million in Florida.
Are these confirmed return ballots, or are these just requested ballots?
Returned numbers.
Yeah.
Wow.
And there's no accounting for how many are valid or not at this point. We don't know that. We just know that they've been received.
So according to this, total early votes is 64 million, mail-in ballots is 43 million, in-person votes 20.1 million right now. We have, according to this, nationally voters have cast 46.6% of the total votes counted in the 2016 general election. That's 8 days before the actual election. It's fascinating numbers.
Yeah, I have a Nextdoor account, and people have been not complaining. They've been trying to game when to go to the polling place so they don't have to wait in line as
lines
much.
are huge right now.
And they're asking, has anybody gone? Because it's in my county, it's just one place that you can go to early vote. It's not multiple places, just one place. So they asked, has anybody been there in a line that has been less than an hour and a half? And nobody has.
That's crazy.
There's been people in New York, it took 6-8 hours to be able to vote. Going early, if you're in the United States, going early is probably going to be easier than going on election day. Still, I think.
I don't know about that, because election day, you're going to have multiple polling places open. You're going to have a lot of people that have already voted, either by absentee ballot or by mail-in voting or early voting. So I don't know if the day of voting is going to be as bad as everybody is projecting. However, I will qualify that COVID protections in a lot of polling locations will be existing. So it might be slower getting through the lines on polling day or not.
There's been some cool stories I've seen of people who've gone to vote early. Like one of the comic book writers I follow on Twitter, Matt Miner, went to go vote early, and they all were lining up outside, and the line was blocks long, and it was through a neighborhood. And there were folks that had put chairs out in their front lawn, spaced 6 feet apart, with like signs that said, "Hey, feel free, take a load off while you're waiting. Please don't take our chairs," with like a winky face, and like put tables out with like free books and stuff, and say, "Hey, take a book so you guys have something to do while you're doing that." I mean, that's cool, but at the same time, it really shouldn't take 6 hours to vote in some cases. That's a sign of a different problem potentially.
My mind immediately goes to that's cool, but that's a great way to have people touch a bunch of surfaces and cross-contaminate each other. Like, it's cool, but my mind is so trained that way now after all these months.
I don't dispute that, but a lot of these folks are probably also carrying their own cleaning supplies with them.
It is outdoors. There are mitigating factors, so I understand. But at the same time, I'm not going to do anything that's risky. Matter of fact, somebody invited me to go watch the University of Minnesota football game Saturday night at a party at their house, and yeah, that was a hard pass. Hard pass.
Well, we're so out of control that today our provincial health officer scolded us and actually put in an order to restrict the amount of people in a household scenario for visitors. So we're out of control. Yay.
Well, there's a lot of places that are right now. So yeah, be safe, everyone, if you're still listening to this, and we'll get back with everybody next week. Thanks for coming. We really appreciate you guys. If it wasn't for you in the live chat and you listening after nobody's going to hear this afterwards, but if it wasn't for you guys, we wouldn't be doing this. So thank you.
Speaking of listening afterwards, did you listen afterwards, SP?
I have not had the chance yet. You know how busy I've been.
Too bad for you. There was a little nugget for you at the very end. Did
you make fun of me again?
No, I didn't make fun of you. I made sure that I gave you the play that you so excellently requested when I cut you off last week.
All right.
The ballot instructions are in there. I put them out for the post show. I took your track.
Yeah,
and
you were
shoved
so
them in there.
worried that I was going to say who was on my ballot and who I was voting for or whatever. You were just like, mute.
So they're there. All right. Thanks, everybody. Have yourself a wonderful evening. And hey, come back next week for the next Gonna Geek show. And be honest. Maybe a better podcasting tomorrow. Wow, we gotta figure that out. So
okay,
should be, but I don't know. We gotta talk. So
Yeah, let's talk.
All right. I know I'm letting the offline conversation to go there, but I was promo